ahead and jump on in and get on started. We're going to be talking about taking control of your thoughts and just kind of the impact that harmful or helpful thoughts can have. We're also going to be talking about how to change our thought process and how to take better control of our thoughts so that those negative thoughts aren't actually having an impact in our life or kind of impeding us from making progress. So we'll go ahead and get started today. So we're going to call them harmful thoughts and we're going to call them helpful thoughts. Those are going to be the terms that we are using. So when you think back about things that are harmful, think about kind of what comes to your mind. Okay, so sometimes I guess you can think of harmful in different ways. So something that might be harmful to you might be, sticking your hand on a hot burner. Maybe something else harmful might be climbing up a ladder that's not secured on a wall properly. But something harmful might also be thinking about yourself, your body image in a poor light. That can be harmful to your progress. Okay, so now I want you to kind of think to yourself, what is something helpful? What are helpful thoughts that we can think about? Helpful thoughts to me might be me thinking maybe some good qualities or traits that I might possess. A helpful thought may be thinking about why I enjoy being around somebody. A helpful thought might even just be something as small as being grateful or having that gratitude. Any of those things can be helpful. Or a helpful thought might be trying to think of a more creative way to get exercise, or thinking of a fruit or vegetable that I could eat that I enjoy, rather than being disappointed that I shouldn't eat that cake or the burrito, something like that. So harmful versus helpful. Harmful are things that impedes us from reaching our goal. Helpful are the things that we can do that help us make our way towards reaching our goal. And so sometimes in life we have those goals that are completely just different types of goals. But for us today, we're going to be talking about those goals that are our physical activity goals or our food goals. Those things, maybe even your weight goals, things like that. Okay, so replacing those harmful goals with helpful things. So what we're going to do is go ahead and pull out your participant guide and look at, her name is Anna's story. It's going to be on page 2. Okay, page 3. So Anna is at risk for type 2 diabetes. She's trying really hard to eat well and be active. So most days she walks around the park, but on Tuesday it's raining and the weather is gross and lousy, and she thinks to herself, well, I guess I better skip my walk today because it's raining outside. So I want you to decide, is that a harmful thought or a helpful thought? Yes, that would be a harmful thought. Good job. You guys are really smart. So then Anna decides to replace that thought with a helpful one. And it's raining, so instead I will walk at the mall, and I'll be able to go and get other errands done and get other things accomplished. So it's helpful. She's replacing that negative thought with something positive, something that's helping her to reach her goal. So I want you to take a look at those bullets below that. These are things that can prevent you from harmful thinking. So taking a look at those. Okay, now that you've read them, take a second to think, or maybe make a star beside of maybe one or two that you feel like is most applicable to the harmful thoughts that you have. Okay, so some things to prevent this. What are some things that you might do? I said that poorly. What are some things that you can do that help you to prevent that harmful thinking? I think keeping things in perspective, I think that's so important. And I think that you can do that. And I think that having that sense of humor with yourself is important as well. And I think that that can help to keep things in perspective. Making those goals, that's important. Being around people who practice that, having somebody in your life who is supporting you in this journey is really important. Celebrating that your reward or your progress. Okay, so next what I want you guys to do is on our participation guide, on pages pages 5 and 6. There are actually different things, different components of ways of replacing harmful with helpful. We're going to kind of walk through each one of these a little bit today. Okay, so the first one we're going to talk about is going to be all or nothing thoughts. I want you to take a second and think to yourself about maybe something that you have all or nothing thoughts about. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example that is for my life. I love dessert, and sometimes I eat way too much dessert. And so sometimes I have to just I take a week and I just completely remove dessert from my life. And sometimes that is not helpful. So it's that idea of, well, I can either have all of it or none of it. And that sometimes for some things that is helpful for people. But sometimes it's not. Sometimes then you spend all your time thinking about the fact that you aren't allowing yourself to have dessert. And so maybe I need to shift my thoughts and say, okay, Katie, what could be a more helpful thought than just saying, nope, you get none of it? Something more helpful for me might be saying, okay, after supper, that is the only time of the day that you can have something that is sweet. Or saying, instead of having that huge piece of chocolate cake, maybe I could split it with my friend. So having that helpful thought of still allowing myself to have a little bit of it, but just not having as much of it. Or physical activity might be another thing. Having all or no physical activity. So maybe your day is really busy and you're like, I don't have any time. I'm either going to work out today for an hour and a half, or I'm not going to do anything. Well, rather than, maybe you only have 15 minutes to do physical activity. So maybe see how much activity you can do and how hard you can go in 15 minutes. Or anything is better than none. So any type of physical activity is going to be better than not doing any at all. So kind of moving our thought process from, well, I'm either going to go to the gym and work out, or I'm not going to do any at all. So, turn on YouTube, look at those videos, see what you can find to do at home, rather than having to take the time out of your day to do that physical activity. Okay, so go ahead and write down, maybe if there is something in your life that you find that you do all or nothing with, and from that then, go ahead and write down a helpful thought that you think you could use in your life. Okay, next is going to be making excuses. I know that all of you watching this video, and me included, I've never made an excuse for anything in my life. So I know it's probably not going to be super applicable, but we'll go over it anyways. Making excuses for exercise or food. Think back to a time maybe that you made an excuse for getting physical activity. Okay, so we're talking about making excuses. I know that it's really easy here to make exercise excuses. It's too hot, it's too cold, it's hilly, it's raining. Or maybe it's really easy to make food excuses. I went to a party last night at the church potluck, or my mama cooked supper and mama just fries food. So then I had to eat that. That was what was provided. And I didn't want to be rude. So how can we take those harmful thoughts and exchange those for helpful thoughts? So it's raining, it's too hot outside, it's too cold. Where else can we go to get exercise? Or do I have a friend that I can take with me when it is raining or it's hot or cold that wants to go to the mall and walk around? Or maybe I always go to mom and daddy's house on Sunday nights for supper, and they always cook supper. Why not have them over, and then you can control what you have for supper that night? Or maybe life is just really busy and you don't feel like you have time. So maybe instead of preparing and planning, using a crock pot or an Instapot to cook your food in. Okay, the next one is going to be filtering our thoughts. Filtering is where you ignore the good and just go straight to the bad. No one supports my healthy lifestyle. I haven't stuck to my diet at all this week. So maybe instead of filtering down just to those bad thoughts, you think to yourself, okay, so yes, we ate out twice this week and I did not make super great choices, but all the rest of the meals that I made and I ate were very healthy. So focusing on that. Or maybe you think to yourself, nobody supports my healthy eating. And so maybe instead thinking about all the good conversations that you've had with people throughout the day or throughout the week, that they have asked you questions about what you've been making or asked you to go get exercise with them. Things like that also are help in filtering out the bad thoughts and only keeping the good thoughts. Self-labeling. You call yourself something. You pick something. Maybe you think that, well, I'm injured. I can't exercise. I have a bummed knee. I can't do anything. I can't walk. Or maybe you self-label yourself and you're like, I'm a terrible cook. I will never be able to cook. I don't know how people do this. So figuring out how to kind of work through those, let's make those helpful thoughts instead. So maybe thinking to yourself, well, I've been doing physical therapy for a few weeks, and before this, I could barely walk 15 feet, but now I can walk for 10 or 15 minutes. So that's instead of labeling myself as injured, maybe figuring out other ways to get that physical activity and not making an excuse for getting that activity. Or maybe it's saying, okay, you know what, right now I am injured, but I've been doing physical therapy and I'm getting better. So that could be a real easy way to label yourself as someone who can't get activity, but you still are doing that activity. Or I'm the worst cook ever. Nobody eats my food. My daughter hates it. She sticks her nose up to it all the time. So maybe instead, or my husband won't eat anything that I make, anything of these healthy foods. So instead, trying to take foods that he does enjoy and incorporate other things in with it. So maybe he loves sloppy joes, and so instead of just making regular sloppy joes, maybe you add some peppers or onions into it, and he's okay with that. So those are things that you can do. So then you're using those foods that you already like, and you're just incorporating other things into it. So that way then, you're not changing everything on them, and so then you don't think so poorly about yourself. Comparing. I feel like the comparison one is one of the most dangerous things for us. We compare ourselves to others. We compare them to the traits that we see in them that is awesome, that we want. So automatically then we feel worse about ourselves because those are the traits that we want to possess that they have. So thinking to yourself of like, man, they're able to go and make healthy meals for their kids every night of the week. And I can only manage to make healthy meals for my children twice a week. Or comparing and saying, well, they're able to make it to the gym for an hour, and I only have time to make it to the gym for 30 minutes. So how are we going to take those thoughts and get rid of that and make it a helpful thought instead? So maybe it's saying, okay, so yes, they're able to make their children healthy meals every night of the week, but maybe I can, instead of just doing 2 nights a week, I can put a healthy meal in the crock pot, or have my husband put in a sheet pan supper, and then it'll be ready when we get home. And that way then we'll have 4 healthy meals instead of just 2. Or if it has to do with getting more exercise, figuring out, okay, so yes, I am making it to the gym for 3 nights a week for 30 minutes. But before I started, I wasn't going to the gym at all. So comparing it to yourself and where you've come from, where you started. Maybe since you started this program, maybe you have increased fruits and vegetables by having an extra serving or 2 servings every day. That's a big step. That's a big deal. So remembering that. And last is going to be your gloom and doom thinking. Thinking to yourself, oh, it's always the worst. I just know that I can't do it. I just know that I'm going to get type 2 diabetes because my parents have it. It's just the way it is. Well, just so you know, a risk factor is not a diagnosis, and you can change things about it. So making these healthy lifestyle changes can help you to decrease your risk. Or maybe your gloom and doom thinking is that, I've always had this weight on me. I'm never going to get it off. I can't lose weight. But you can make healthy choices, healthy changes in your life that are hard, and you can see the progress as you go along. Any little bit of progress is a change, and that's a good step in the right direction. And so focusing on, once again, going back to where we started versus where we are now. Okay? So now I want you to turn to page number 4, and I'm going to walk through these questions with you. So step number 1, identify your harmful thoughts. What get in the way of your eating and your fitness goals? Okay. Number 2, put on the brakes. Some people like to imagine a car putting on their brakes and or coming up to a stop sign. Some of them just like to imagine the word stop. But what I want you to do is think of how can you put on your harmful thoughts. How can you put those brakes on and get rid of those harmful thoughts? Okay, and most importantly, I want you to think of something that you can write down that would be a helpful thought. What can you create to make it helpful? Okay, now what I want you to do is I want you to take your goal that we normally set, and I want this to be your goal for the week. I want you to figure out, make it realistic, make it doable, make it flexible, and make it specific. And think of a goal of something that has been harmful that you've been thinking that you can convert and make a helpful thought instead. And try to reach for that this week. Try to let's try to change our thoughts. Okay, let's try to change our minds. Our minds are a powerful thing, and they're a powerful tool, and those helpful thoughts that we're thinking can really make a difference. Okay, so you guys have a great week, and I will see you next week.